Before we get to the show, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Cravat Inc. for sponsoring the show. Have you heard the majority of Cravat Inc. products are in stock and ready to ship within days? Yes. Order your favorite patterns from Cravat's exclusive in-stock collections. You can keep your interior design projects on track with Cravat Inc. Go to Cravat.com today to set up an account. And I want you to jot down this code, AWDB10. You can use this code for 10% off any one order of Cravat fabric, wallpaper, or trim when you order online. AWDB10. Go to Cravat.com today and get started. Welcome to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Nicole Roe, the founder of our Nickson Interiors in Lakeland, Florida. Nicole has over a decade of experience in the industry and a degree in building construction, which informs and gives her a unique perspective to her projects, understanding the full scope of the entire process from the very beginning to the end. Now, the thing that we're going to talk about in this episode is how Nicole made the decision to set up an in-house receiving warehouse for her interior design firm. And I have interviewed 1,000 of you. Now, this is officially 1,001 episode. And I don't think I've met anybody that has made this step. Okay, you know that the external receiving companies can be a godsend, but they also can be frustrating, right? Damaged or missing items, subpar installation experiences. And Nicole was experiencing these pain points and decided to establish her own warehouse, giving her greater control. Now, it sounds like a lot of work, but for Nicole, we'll learn, you'll hear, it's worth it. In our conversation, she shares valuable insights on how she vetted the idea, how she analyzed the costs, and found the perfect warehouse space. We also discuss the benefits of having the in-house warehouse, including the ability to close more deals, take on larger projects, and provide a higher level of service to her clients. To do this, Nicole had to create new processes, hire new team members, and tackle all the things that go into building and growing your business. Sounds familiar maybe, right? Have you been there? It can be rough if you don't have the right resources when it's time to grow your team. Well, my cousin Eileen Hahn and I have created the Hiring Toolkit Bundle. You can go see this at LuAnnNigara.com/store. This comprehensive resource is backed by our combined experience in the interior design and team building industry, running my own business for 4 decades. Basically, these toolkits guide you through the entire hiring process, from creating intentional job descriptions per job role, intentional job postings per job role, and all the way through tips for conducting effective interviews. These toolkit bundles empower you to be prepared, and they are a strategic resource for your firm as you onboard each new team member. So visit LuAnnNigara.com/store to explore the different toolkits that we have available, or avail yourself of the complete toolkit bundle. And this really is the first step toward building an exceptional team for yourself. Alrighty, let's meet Nicole and let's hear about this warehouse, shall we? Hey, Nicole, thanks so much for joining me on A Well Designed Business today.
Hey, LuAnn. So happy to be here.
So, Nicole, interesting thing. I've never had a designer reach out and tell me that in 6 years in business and you're over, the seven-figure revenue mark, but I think it's unusual, to have your own warehouse receiving thing going on in your business as opposed to using a third party for this. Um, I can see when a business gets very large, that they might think about this, but I don't know that I've met, not that, seven figures gross revenue is small by any stretch, but it's an unusual layer to add to your business at this point of your business journey. Tell me, why have you decided to do this, Nicole?
As a designer, there's things we lose sleep over. You lose sleep. Will the sofa fit through the hallway? Does the tile work? All those things we lose sleep over. But what I realized I was losing the most sleep over was our receiving warehouse.
Mm,
The items you order them, you know, they get shipped there. They supposedly got inspected and photographed and repackaged and stored safely and all the documentation, and then 4 months later you have install day, and they're supposed to all get loaded up on a truck like the spreadsheet you provided. You get to the install, and we never had an install that went smooth enough that I was very happy with. Items were left, items would arrive damaged, um, items would go full blown missing. And it's hard to explain to a client, by the way, we've billed you thousands of dollars over these past 6 months for your install not to go smooth, or for your coffee table to have been
right, right.
lost, to really kind of have to play that game. And also, being in the small town that we are, we didn't have a lot of options. The closest receivers were over an hour away. So let's call it an hour and a half away. Right there, you're paying 3 hours to the moving company. So you're paying for the two men in the truck for 3 hours that they aren't really working.
Right.
And as we know, that adds up. And it's not easy for us to hop in a car and go check on our items either.
Mhm.
And that really kind of was like, okay, how can I fix this? What can we do? What benefit do I have being in this smaller town? And for us, we could lease a warehouse. It wasn't city pricing. It wasn't, LA or Atlanta pricing. We could get a 2,000 square foot warehouse with a loading dock, because that was key. As everyone knows,
Mm,
as you're checking out with your items or talking to your vendors, they want to make sure they are delivering to a receiving warehouse, because that is
right.
how we get our designer pricing for almost all our vendors. So we have the loading dock, we have, the dollies and the pallet jacks and all the items we need to do what we need to do. But the best part is we're in control. We aren't losing
Mm,
sleep over it. We have our items there.
mm.
We know, like, when something comes damaged, we know the next steps. So really, I think it was gaining control, but also giving us the competitive edge in a small town.
Okay. So the thing is, when you first had this idea, Nicole, you know, what did you do to vet it? It's one thing, like for me, I'm always saying, let's go back to the data. So, simple things, completely different analogy, but a simple thing is that it's not unusual for someone to say, I get no new inquiries. None of my clients, come from Instagram, or hardly any come from Instagram. But then when you press them and you say, go do an audit of your last year's clients and track back how everyone reached you, I've had people look at me and go, I can't believe it. I had 20 clients and actually 5 came from Instagram. And I'm like, well, that's not an insignificant percentage that we're just going to throw Instagram out with the bathwater, right? And so, what kind of things did you do as the owner of your company to just not jump into leasing a warehouse, buying all of that equipment, dollies and forklifts and pallet jackers, and having, I'm sure, a warehouse manager to know that it actually was going to be it was going to be a positive in your profit, not just a positive in your time? Or is it really just a positive in time and not necessarily profit? Like, what did you do to vet it?
I think it's both. So we went through and ran all the reports of how much money was going from us to the receiving warehouses. And at this point, probably from the start of my business on, we used about 5 or 6 different warehouses. So we kind of had seen how each of them bill. As we know, some do square footage, some do by item, some do monthly, some do flat fee. So we really could understand what was being paid for what. And we saw, okay, this client paid 5,000 in receiving fees for this project. Kind of what could we do? We're still charging the client. They have to pay the receiving fees, but the money is coming to us and we're controlling it a little bit more. But we ran those numbers and realized some months we were paying the receiving warehouses way more than you'd pay someone's salary and rent. So that
Okay.
alone made sense. And then I did speak to some of the receiving warehouses that I had a relationship with and kind of
Mm.
explained to them, hey, you're over an hour away, you're an hour and a half away. I think I'm going to do this. And none of them were, angry or mad. At this point, they have a ton of business. It's those COVID, years where everyone's a little crazy. And we kind of figured out their processes, their procedures. We sat down and kind of nailed down, like, if we're going to do this, how are we going to do it right? How are we going to improve it? But also, how are we going to sell this to the client? Because we still have to charge them. And they're not familiar with what a
Hmm.
receiving warehouse is. So we have made documents and printouts and shown them the numbers of why it makes sense to them. But what they really like is knowing we have their items. Their items are with us. Their items are safe. If they want to come see their
Mm.
100 grand, 200 grand of furniture, it's at our
Hmm.
warehouse instead of us having to be like, oh, yeah, off of this interstate, there's a warehouse and they have all your furniture and everything's good. They know
Yeah.
literally we have it. We're checking the fabric swatches. If for some reason we need to drop a certain piece by, we can do that. But they like knowing that we're the ones touching it, we're the ones looking at it, we're the ones that are making sure everything's kind of running safe. But I would say the next real big step for us was meeting with a real estate agent
Mm.
and really kind of, you can get on LoopNet or some of the other real estate websites, but getting someone who you trust, who
Hmm.
has boots on the ground and can take you around and see the different types of spaces. Because warehouse space, there's so many different needs of a warehouse
Right.
space. And our priorities, one was safety. I did not want my team not feeling safe at the office.
Mm.
As you can imagine, some warehouses are sketchy, especially the ones that
Yeah.
are like low
Areas. Right.
budget.
Yes.
So
Right.
we really needed something that felt safe, felt clean, obviously had the loading dock, had the overhead doors, had a space for us to have an office up front. Um, but it's amazing how many buildings we drove by, went into, looked at the listings before we settled on where we are.
You really, really, you did a lot. You had to look at a lot of, like, what is it, a lot of frogs before you got the prince.
Yes, 100%.
And so that's interesting, right? It's like to not just make an assumption that a warehouse space is a warehouse space, that there are different qualities, there's different areas, obviously areas in the town that you select that feel like it's down a dirt road and nobody knows you went there, 5 o'clock at night and then you're coming out,
Yes.
right? Um, but also, and then once you have these criteria, then it's the comparison of the square foot price versus another one, and now making those evaluations, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, it was interesting because you said that, how were you going to explain it to your client? And it's funny because my first thought was, what's the difference? What do they need to know or not know? Like, I can understand you're deciding to explain it as part of your process, as far as that that somewhere in the process from discovery to contract signing. Like, I think it's a plus for you to say all the things that you said. Like, we're managing your product, we're checking the swatches. No receiver is going to tell me on the day of your install that, you know, 3 guys are out sick and I can't deliver to you today, right? I can see having that in your, you know, your value add when you're doing your presentations and you're doing your discovery calls. But it would never occur to me that a client would question and say, you know, like, there's no negative. Like, I don't see any negative of it. Did you anticipate clients having some negative when you said that? Like, you were concerned about that and something? Like, I'm wondering what I don't know. What am I missing?
I would say where we're located, there's not a plethora or many designers that are offering the full service kind of design experience. There's designers that are helping, you know, pick finishes or help order furniture, but all of those that we had encountered are doing retail. So most of our clients, if they even knew of someone that had used a designer, or if they had used a designer themselves, that designer was ordering retail. The stuff was getting shipped to their door. The client was having to deal with boxes. So we
Gotcha.
weren't just having to sell, hey, we're doing our own receiving. We had to really educate. And we've had to educate everyone that we've come across, because no one that we've done projects for in the past, you know, 5, 6 years has ever worked with a designer to our caliber.
Wow. Okay. I love this. I tell you why I love this, because if I have a nickel for every time someone tells me, well, in my area, we can't do that because that nobody else does it. That's not how it's done. And it's just the consumers here won't take that. So here you are. Forget the warehouse situation.
Yeah.
You're saying that in your 6 years in business, any client that you've worked with has, if they've worked with a designer before, has never had to the trade purchases before. It's all been the client goes with the designer to the retail store. They sit on the things, they pick the things, the designer gets their silly 20% off, and off to the races they go. That's what you're saying.
100%.
Okay. See, you're now my poster child for be the first one in the area to do something. Like, I mean, I just like, I just, you know what I'm saying? Like, it makes me crazy when somebody says you can't do this in my area. It's like, no, you can. You can do anything. Here you are. You're a woman that has a degree in the construction design, whatever the degree is called. I specifically asked you what it was called, so I didn't mess it up. Building construction degree under a school of architecture, right? So not only is that unusual, but you bring it to this, like, it sounds like a small town area. It's not like you're in Chicago doing this. And you not only get there, have luxury design build experience under your belt from working in the firms before you opened your own firm, but you see nobody's doing it your way. And you're just like, oh, well, I'm a designer in the wrong area. I guess I can't do this. You're just like, no, this is how we're doing it. This is how a full service luxury designer does it. And I'm just going to educate the people. Now, tell me about educating them. Did you have, you know, the one every other person, like, forget it, I want to go back to the person that I can walk into the stupid box store and sit on it? Did you have most people go, interesting, I'll go down the road with you? Like, what was that like, Nicole, that education process?
It's one of those moments where people look at you and then they look at you again and they're like, oh, this is actually an option. And for those that want that full service experience, that don't want boxes coming to their door, that don't want to have to move stuff around, that don't want to have to meet the wallpaper installer, like, their lives are literally changed. They're excited, they have the finances to do it, they're ready to move forward. The ones that kind of pull back are the ones that want to be a little more involved in it, or they like to find the deal, or maybe they don't have the finances for it. So, you know, that doesn't quite make them our client, which is great. But also, by educating them, they may have a friend or a family member that is the right fit for us.
Right. You know, it's funny because I love what you said is in the process, some people, they're not going to cross over for whatever reason, finances, or they like the ability to do the whole in tandem and blah blah blah, right? But the idea is that you didn't just say, well, everybody here, this is how it's always been, this is how it's always going to be. You found in this process that there were some people that are like, whoa, never knew they had vanilla ice cream. I've only ever had chocolate, right? And this is awesome. I don't have to scoop it myself either. And I don't have to buy the cones. I just walk up and you hand it to me, right? Like that's what it sounds like. You were finding these people out there that because even though they had never done it before, it was only because it was never offered to them before. And they just needed to know that it was available.
Correct.
Okay. And then with those people come people like them, right? They
Correct.
go right, like they sit at the PTA meeting and one friend they know is the, in tandem DIY, let me, work with my decorator, but they know the other friend is like, "No, girl, I got you. This is your girl. You got to call Nicole. You're not going to do anything." Right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. So back to the warehouse now. I got a little excited there, Nicole. I just have to say. So back to the warehouse. So now you have done the process of evaluating the different ways. I love that you said that. You evaluated first the 5 or 6 receivers that you had been using. What were the different ways they were charging? What were the services that you were getting probably for those different fee structures? And then also you were looking at what you were actually spending per month in this receivers category. And ultimately you come up with a combination of an idea of that what makes sense for you as like what you're, in other words, if you're like maybe you discover that you on average are spending 3,000 a month for receivers fees, but it's going to cost you 3,000 a month to do this with the warehouse guy and the gas, the electric and all the, and the rent. You probably would have said, that's a plus for me because I'm getting all these other tangibles. But did you also learn, I didn't catch that. Did you learn that over the course of a year, it actually is saving you money by having the receivership? Or is it just that your quality of your deliverables goes up higher, but the money's about the same?
I would say it's a little of both. We have run the reports, we've looked at the numbers, and we aren't like becoming a super profitable business because we're doing the warehouse. That's not like the one part of it, but it has allowed us to make more money. It's allowed us to close more deals. It's allowed us to take on larger projects, but it's also allowed us to take on more of the one-offs when it's a previous client that wants to now order a sofa, or they need a new bed for their daughter's room, or some of these things that we may have said no to in the past because of the complications of then sending it to the receiver, then having to have it brought in. But we now have the ability to order those things. It is also,
Let me just ask you about
yeah,
that before you go to your next. If you need to know what your other thing is, but I just want to clarify because this is where I have a knowledge gap. So what you're saying is, it sounds like what I'm hearing is when you are using a receiver and you have multiple items, it makes logical financial sense. But sometimes it might not make financial sense if somebody is like, "Hey, I just want to have this one bed," and like you just used for a kid's room or something. What is it? The cost of the bed versus the receiving, shipping, and all that fee. It's higher. Like why? I mean, one bed has a shipping and receiving fee. What happens there? Explain it to me. What happens there that made it less desirable for you to say yes to those one-off things?
for us having to send it to the receiver that was, an hour and a half away, then the receiver's holding onto that bed. We weren't going to pay a moving company the 3.5 hours round trip to deliver that bed. So we were coordinating it with other installs or other deliveries. And sometimes that bed would end up sitting there for 2 months and no one was really happy with it. It wasn't the experience we wanted, but they also didn't want to pay an additional like $1,000 to have a bed delivered.
Okay, so let me also further clarify. So The three times in my entire 40 years that I ordered a sofa from Kravit or a chair or something for a customer, because we were not in the furniture business, but I did on the
Yeah.
occasion do it, we would send it to a receiver, but that receiver also white glove delivered it. So what you're talking about is a different, like maybe the receivers that you're using don't have the white glove service. You have to rent a truck and guys and send them out to get it, because we would just have Kravit ship it to this receiver here in the New York, New Jersey area. And then once they got it, we'd be like, okay, let's get a delivery date. And their truck would come and deliver it and uncrate it and bring it into the house and take the boxes away. So there's different levels of receivership, is what you're saying, or services?
Some of the receivers have an in-house moving crew. So they do
Yes.
have the trailer, they do have the trucks. Some of them hire out third-party moving companies.
Gotcha. So you're going to get the bill for that like 2 hour, 3 hour
Either
round trip.
way, we would be getting the bill because it
Hmm.
is such a long drive. So it was kind of whether it's in-house or whether it's third party, it still cost a lot of money. Where now, we can get our moving company that's down we do use a third party moving company.
You still do that. You don't take
We
that
do.
in house. But they're
No,
not driving an hour and a half to pick up
they
the
are
one
not.
bed and then an hour and a half back to their shop to, park their truck for the night.
Yes, no,
Right.
they're driving like 4 blocks to our office, which is really nice. But we also have a van. So we did purchase a van a few years ago. So we're able to do some of the smaller deliveries. Really anything under 6 feet, we can deliver with the van.
Right, right, right. Like easy stuff, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So now what happens is, like what was happening before, I can hear it, is your good client that has done a lot of work for you with you and just wants the one thing, and you have to say to her, "You know what? If you want, you can spend another $600 to have this delivered, and when it hits the receiver, it will come right to you because you're going to pay the one-off delivery charge, or you can let it sit here until I have another half house, full house coming back this way, and we'll try and get it on that truck." But I can see that agita too.
Yeah.
That's like us at Window Works. We're constantly like, "Oh, you just have a repair." Well, when Billy's in the city for the day doing, 16,000 draperies, we'll have him stop by and do a repair. But you don't stop by in New York City anywhere. You know, it's like it can take you 45 minutes to drive around the circle in a block, to get a parking spot. And so we always are trying to pretend that it's efficient, but it's not efficient. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, the 15-minute repair call we need 3 hours to do, right? So I get that. And so now that's recouped sales that you used to previously either take and now manage the disappointment and the agita, because the woman, in May that says, "Oh, it's fine, I'm not in a rush for the bed," in July is like, "She's coming home from camp in a minute and a half, when is the bed going to get here?" Right? Like,
Yes,
okay.
100%.
Okay. So that would, so two tangible benefits. The one was that you were closing more deals, and that's just wrapped around what you said in the beginning, that idea that, we've got control of your product from the time it hits, we're inspecting, we're doing all of that. Is that why it closes more deals, Nicole? That slice right there, or is there another nuance to that?
I think the confidence, whenever you can
Mm.
really just sell, like, hey, we have you, we have this, we're going to place all these orders, we're going to track them, we're going to follow them up, they're going to come on trucks, we're going to unload them, we're going to inspect them, we're going to make sure we're good, we're going to then repackage them and store them kind of in your zone, in your space until you're ready for them. It's hard for them to be like, "Oh, I don't want you to do that. That sounds horrible. Why would I want you to make sure everything's okay?" So that really, really works in our favor. And as designers know, even we go to High Point, we go to all these things, we touch, we feel items, but sometimes it's not till you really get that coffee table or that bookcase or that sofa in that you get to touch and feel and really decide, like, okay, this is great. And you know what's really fun is we will style items in the warehouse. Like I'll take a Friday afternoon and be like, okay, I have this console. It needs to be styled on install day. Let's grab all of our styling stuff. Let's style it. Let's take a picture of it. So on install day, the intern or the design assistant can take that box of items that's labeled, console accessories, look at the picture and style it without me. And I know we're
Wow.
good to go.
Wow. Okay, I love that too, right? Um, so tangible benefits. You're closing more deals with the value add of having everything in house. You are picking up orders that you would have previously had to let go of. You are also this benefit of being able to thoughtfully style something and know that bang, 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 now anybody can do it in your place. And probably in that regard, you can sit there probably in, 3 hours and style 5 or 6 areas, pieces, whatever, of somebody's home and pack it all up. And now you're not the one waiting for all the stuff to get undone. Like you said, your assistant, your junior designer can be on boots on the ground doing that. So the other thing is, I'm assuming that you have a full-time warehouse guy at the thing. This can't be part-time. You don't know when the things are going to be delivered by the freight companies. Is that correct, Nicole?
So we currently have someone that's working about 30 hours a week.
Okay.
It worked really well. We've had full time, we've had more part time. The 30 hours has worked for the individual based on like their own schedule. Yes, items may come before or after that window.
Okay.
We have had really good luck with almost all of our delivery guys that come in the trucks are super helpful, especially if they see that it's, 3 or 4 women. They're not going to make us, pull the pallet jack off the truck. We have yet to have an issue with it. So we have the
Mm,
delivery truck
yeah.
driver. We have like an unloading area, so it's kind of in the back of the warehouse by the loading dock door. So when the warehouse assistant comes in, he sees, what he needs to inspect that day. We use
Okay.
Slack as most of the world uses now. So in Slack, whoever's there when the delivery happens, they'll put in this vendor dropped off a pallet, of
Okay.
items. And we also have a spreadsheet that says how quickly everything needs to be inspected. So some
Okay.
vendors are 24 hours, some are 72 hours. So we have a little leeway. Um, but we also have the process, moving forward of how every delivery is handled. So
So that's great because that's something I wouldn't have thought of, right? It's like if you're thinking about doing something like this, taking on a receivership like you are for your own business, in addition to everything that you've brought up, it's like, okay, even if the guy's there 40 hours, but I get 30 hours, right? Like you get to know your delivery people and like, okay, please don't come before 10, blah, blah, blah. Like, at WindowWorks, we've had the same UPS guy for like 25 years. It's like crazy, right? And I understand freight is different because we also get
yeah,
freight deliveries here as well. And they're not nearly as cooperative, but we're not getting freight delivered 5 days a week like we are UPS. So I imagine it's the same concept. You develop like the guy's like, all right, I'll take a coffee break before I go to Nicole's place. The guy comes on at 10:30 or whatever, right? And I understand what you're saying is he pulls up and there's only, one or two women there. Most delivery freight guys are gonna I've had the freight guys where I'm like, okay, then I guess you're gonna leave because I'm by myself. Well, you're supposed to have somebody to take it off. I'm like, well, you're supposed to call me and tell me when you're coming. Like we've had the debates over the years, believe me. um the thing is that other process of, regardless if the guy is there when the delivery comes in, is having it documented which companies require 24, 48, or 72 hour notification of something being wrong or damaged. That's a big deal because you will literally blow all your profits if you're discovering the damaged stuff right away before you get it to your client's house and your receiver isn't missing it, but you're not doing it in time to do anything about it that doesn't cost you money, right, Nicole?
yes. And I think everyone in our office knows we've gotten items that have come, the box is destroyed.
Yeah, yeah,
The rug is completely torn open.
yeah.
Those items we all know you
You refuse
reject
them.
them. You
Yeah.
sign the paper that you're not accepting it. We still take the photos. We take a photo of the truck. Sometimes
Yeah.
we'll take a photo of the driver, as he's leaving. But we do know that process,
Yeah.
and that's been super important. Like we've had tile, deliveries where literally the whole pallet shattered. I'm like,
Oh my
did you slam
gosh.
on your brakes, like at the
You're
red
like,
light across the street? So that's kind of been, but the other steps, it goes back to, documenting. And all of us know we have to document through the construction process. You document through the design process, but documenting through the receiving is almost more important because you can lose your tail if you don't document
yes.
appropriately. So when we get the items, we use design files.
Okay.
And I know there's a lot of debate there of kind of what to use. I started with them, probably one of
That's
their
what you're used to.
first,
Yeah.
and it's just worked well. But their tracker system they use, you can say when the item arrives. So we instantly, put that it's arrived. And then the person that's inspecting them, we photograph it no matter what. We photograph the packaging, we photograph the item. And each client within their folder has we call it perfect condition folder and then a damage folder. So even
Good,
if
good.
that side
Easy to
table
get, right?
is, yes, if that side table is perfect, we still put all the photos in there because
Mm,
say the movers carrying that side table in and
that's
they
right.
they drop it and it's cracked, we have proof that it was in really good shape prior.
It
And that,
used to be perfect, right?
yes, used to be perfect, but we had an install last week and the same thing, a sofa got damaged at the install, which we're not eliminating all the risk with this, but
Yes.
we had the proof that the sofa arm was not damaged when they picked it up. And so then we had the proof where the moving company is now responsible for it. And it's fine. Everybody's working together because it was documented well. It's not a pointing finger situation.
Yeah.
And after it's documented, all the photos are uploaded. We put it all in Slack, like all these items arrived in perfect condition. We then repackage it either how it was packaged or better. So we do
Mm.
have, I mean, it looks, like a warehouse. We've got the plastic, we've got the moving blankets, we've got the bubble wrap, we've got the cardboard. We package it back up. And then we have a couple sets of stickers we use. And the stickers, and I'm going to use her name, and I told you I wasn't going to use her name, but Meredith Heck showed me the sticker she put at her house when her items would come in. And before we were just, writing on Sharpie or, kind of doing like whatever. And then I saw those darn stickers. And this was like 2 years ago now. And I was like, I can't believe I've never printed stickers. And I'm so mad at Meredith because she thought of this before me. So that's twice I've said her
Oh my
name.
God. I'm
But
dying laughing. You guys, I'm dying laughing because pre-show, Nicole put on her intake form. How did you hear about the podcast? Like I always ask everybody, right? And it says, longtime listener, and some of my friends have been interviewed on the show. And I said, oh, so tell me who's been on the show. That's your friend. She's like, no, I'm not saying her name. I'm not saying it now. I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it on the show. I'm like, Meredith Huck, right? She's like, yes. Because like, oh my God, I think it's so funny. So that's our inside joke that we've just expressed outside.
yes, yes. And I'm regretting it
Hi
already.
Meredith. Hi Meredith. How are you?
We do love you. But these stickers have been really huge for us. They're branded to us, they have our logo on them, and then they say the project name, the item name, and then the room location.
Oh wow.
So we stick that sticker on the side of the box. Then we have a secondary sticker that each room gets a letter and each item gets a number. So all of that's correlated on a spreadsheet. So it's like, say, the den. The den has a rug. So that's A1. The den also has a rug pad. That's,
A2.
A2.
Yeah.
Then,
Okay.
there's the console. That's A3. Then there's the lamp. That's A4, as you go on. So on that spreadsheet, it has everything listed, all of the items. It has the vendor. It has what we charge the client for the item
Mm,
because that is what the movers are valuing the item at.
gotcha.
So when they damage that console, they see that we had charged the client $1,200 for it. So that
Ah.
is the value.
Okay. So back up a second. On the spreadsheet, is it the amount you charge the client, or is it the net wholesale that you paid for the product?
We put the amount we charge the client.
Okay. So I, what's so funny is because this document goes to the house, right? Like by your assistant or
It
somebody.
travels. It does
Yes.
travel.
Yeah. So I'm glad to know, A, that it has the what you charge the client because, these are the kinds of things. It gets lost behind. Your assistant wakes up at 2 o'clock in the morning. She's crying because she left it at the house and now there's the client reading everything, right? But are you also saying that the moving company that damages it is responsible for the amount that you charge the client, or you just have it there as a reference in case it does get misplaced, or they are only responsible for net? I've never actually understood that.
When it's had to be replaced, for the sofa, for example, like they are going to cover just the repair of the
Okay.
sofa. So they're not going to necessarily pay us for the entire amount. When we've had to reorder stuff in the past, because we have such a good relationship with them, we just charge them what it cost
The
us.
net. Yeah. Okay. Okay. But when they're looking at it,
Yeah.
it, A, like I said, if, God forbid the document gets left behind, the clients aren't having a bottle of wine and adding up all that you charge them a profit on product, right? We're entitled to profit. We should
Yes.
be charging, but we don't need to talk about it either, right? But the thing is that mover, if he looks and sees it's a $10,000 sofa, he just knows, holy crow, this is not, a run of the mill sofa or $20,000 sofa, right? They know what they're. You know how frustrating it can be when your clients cannot understand or visualize your design concepts, right? Even though you've given swatches, drawings, mood boards, and you've used software like AutoCAD and SketchUp, and you've tried to make sure they understand what they are approving. Well, Duke Renders has the answer for that. They offer 100% accurate, do it for you 3D renderings that present your designs in their entirety. This way, you can make sure that your client fully understands and visualizes your design before execution. This saves you headaches, saves you time, this saves you money, it saves you that back and forth. Do you want to learn how you can start saving these headaches? Well, book a quick intro call to start getting your designs in beautiful photorealistic renderings. Go to dukerenders.com/LuAnn and you will get 30% off your first order. That's dukerenders.com/LuAnn. Do this now. Just book the call now and see what's going on over there because this offer is valid for just this week. Looking against. Okay. And when they're moving it, maybe they'll be a little more careful because it is super expensive, right?
Yes. In the spreadsheet also, we put weights, like how
Mm.
much that table weighs, because we love a concrete table, but that concrete table may weigh 800 pounds or, 500 pounds. Or we just did a petrified wood table. That little table was like 300 pounds.
Wow.
So we do want them to know, and we also have a line item for items that need to be assembled. So say it is a tabletop and a base. We want the moving company to know, hey, there's 7 items on this truck that need some sort of assembly. So it works very well. And then on install day, we have one employee stands at the loading dock. And as each item comes out, she highlights it. So we know we've left nothing behind.
Wow. This is a great process, Nicole. This is a great process. Really well thought out.
Thank you. It
Yeah.
needs to be.
Yeah. It does need to be. I mean, I feel like, so she's standing, somebody's standing at the loading dock, making sure it all comes out. And then you have the same checklist at the end of the day, I guess, that it's like
Yes,
everything came in. There isn't a highlighted item that isn't through the front door.
correct.
Okay. Really good. And so what happens is you are also you're giving the moving company the ability to project how much time they need, right? Like this is 300 pounds. This is 400 pounds. Okay, we're going to need 4 guys for that. That they probably don't need 4 guys for 400 pounds, but you know what I'm saying. This is a 900-pound table. We might need 4 guys. Or there's 12 items on this out of 20 that need assembly. So you're giving them the ability to project that. And you're also taking away their ability to say, hey, this we have to charge you more for because we had to assemble 12 items. You're like, sort of like you knew that already. Don't play that game, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. And then you still probably, when I think about circling back to the beginning with explaining to the client the benefits of this, which there are many, I gotta believe that you sound too smart and too intentional not to be doing this, but there has to be also some conversation to the client, like, and even though we've done all of this, we still could have problems on the day, right? Like you still have
Yes.
that kind of expectation put out there. I would agree. I would think, right?
Yes. We, in our kind of email that we send out, typically a couple weeks before install, or once we've really set that firm date, it goes through the process, but it also makes it clear that there's going to be deficiencies. Our contract says there's going to be deficiencies. I bring it up. This install we had last week had deficiencies. There's multiple things that we then today had to have a handyman go back and do. We had to reach out to vendors because glass didn't fit on a table because we didn't try it in our warehouse because glass is scary.
Yes.
It can
Leave it
break.
packaged.
Leave it packaged. It looked like it would fit, but
Yeah.
we tell them, there's going to be deficiencies, but you hired us to handle the deficiencies so that you don't have to.
It's funny because I just did a recent episode with Sandra Funk, and it probably just came out in the last couple of weeks as you and I are recording this. And she told a little story in the episode about how she had a particular client that and I had happened to do a lot of work with her with this client over the years, and she said at one point on one of the projects, second or third project in, he said to her, "Man, I just think we're cursed." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" Because she's like at install and she's thinking things are going great, like, like, look at how beautiful things are turning out. Oh, that rug looks amazing, right? And she goes, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Just every single time we get to this day, no matter this house, the other house, whatever, there's always something wrong. Like the paint is this, or the thing is scratched, or you want to do an edit to something." And he goes, "And I just think we're cursed." And, she just had this aha moment that she hadn't prepared any of her clients to that point, that there's always going to be a punch list. Like this is
Yes.
normal. Like it's normal to be excited that the stuff is pretty, and it's normal that there's a punch list. I mean, you coming from construction, you would never build a house and not expect that there's going to be a punch list. And the thing is, I think your garden variety consumer kind of expects that on a build, right? Like we're going to look through and be like, is that switch plate sideways? And, did the, so-and-so to whatever. But I think it's valid that most consumers, until they've done, well, this guy had done multiple full service luxury projects and thought it was just his projects that always had that trail of, half a dozen or a dozen nudgy things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very important to set the stage for that this is not a deficiency. This is not us dropping a ball. This is just one more part of the process that we manage for you, right? It's going to happen and we're going to take care of it.
100%. When I later today, I will be cutting two pieces of wood to mount a bed to the wall. They got thrown away somehow during, the move-in day. They didn't realize that they're like the wood 45-degree brackets that you slip the bed
Yes.
on.
Yes.
It's a 1x8. I can cut a 45 on it. We'll drill it in tomorrow. It's really not a big deal. But of
Right.
course, the client was like upset about it. My team is freaking out that they can't find these pieces of wood because you know what it looks like after an install. We didn't
Yes.
notice at the time it was gone.
Yes.
There's,
Piles
6,000
of
square feet of
boxes and
furniture boxes outside.
yes.
If something had to go missing, I'm really
Yeah,
glad it was that.
that's
Like,
right.
thrilled.
Not the headboard itself, right?
I literally have wood in the shop that we can cut. And it's not a big deal, but it is expressing like, hey, the glass doesn't fit. We need a piece of wood. The mirror hanger has to come back because he doesn't have the right drill bit. Like this stuff happens.
Yeah.
And I think they also gauge like our stress level, as a client, like, hey, it's really not that big a deal. We do this every day. But for them, they don't do this every day. And hopefully they
Right.
won't have to do it for a while.
Right. Well, this has been enlightening. I really it's interesting because I can remember, and I don't know if she will be listening to this episode, but at one point I had a COB client, and this is going back about 3 years ago. And at one point she said to me, I think I'm going to like start a receivership. I'm just going to do it on my own in house. And she'll remember I wasn't against it. I just said, run the numbers on it.
Yeah.
Go run the numbers. Just come back and justify to me that this is worth it. And, and maybe it was given her area. She was in a much more high, not demographic, like high density area, right? So it's probably harder to come by warehouse space. And then the warehouse space per square foot was probably more expensive. But ultimately, she ran the numbers much the way you did on what she was spending and what it would cost and all the things. And she came back and she's like, yeah, it doesn't make financial sense at this point. But I have to say, I will. Not that I didn't take the request seriously. It's not that, because I sent her on her way to do her homework and she came back with her own decision on it. But I am a little more, and I have been in the past, a little more like, oh, okay. And then after we do the receiver business, should we also open up a bakery? Like, what are we doing here? Like, I just like, why do we need to chase that stuff? Listen to me. I'll chase the shiny objects all day. That's why I have a coach. But when I'm coaching you, we're not chasing them. I'm like, no, come on back. Come on back. Come on back. Right. So, but it's just interesting. It's a lot to think about. And if anybody that I'm working with ever has this idea or thought, I'm going to go back to this list of ideas and list of things that you outlined here, because it's there's possibility in it, is really what it is, if it fits for you and you have the right. I think also too, Nicole, probably coming from a construction build background, when you come from that, it kind of reminds me like when we've had like April Gandy and Monica Wilcox, who came from a military background. It's checklist city,
Yeah.
right? It's like this is how you can't build a house without a checklist, right? Like you just can't. Like that's silly, right? But you can design a house without a checklist. Unfortunately, you shouldn't, but you can, because there is no building inspector or electrical inspector coming after you and saying, oh, furniture police, is the scale right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like the stakes are different. It's a different set of criteria. Am I crazy, or do you agree with me on that?
No, I agree.
Yeah, like you do both. You do both the design and the furniture and the construction. So there's just a different level. What I love is when a designer brings the level of accountability to her design business that an Air Force pilot needs to bring or a construction team needs to bring, but it doesn't have the same external accountability, right?
No, I agree.
Yeah. So, is there anything regarding this topic of going into this that we've left off the table, that I don't know what I don't know, that you're like, oh no, we have to tell them this one other thing, or this is the final thought that I want to leave everybody with on this?
I think a lot of us go into design and go into construction and go into this because we like seeing the final result. We like seeing it finished. And there's something to be said about walking into the warehouse, especially the days that it's packed. We're
Mm,
getting close to an installer. We've got a few projects in there, and you've got to snake your way through. And like everything in there is stuff you sourced, you selected, you designed, you
mm.
ordered. It's going to go in somebody's house. Like, just, I love to go and just like take a selfie with like 8 million boxes behind me, because how cool is that? How cool is it
Yes.
as a designer to have stuff that's tangible around you every day? You're not just on CAD. You're not just looking at, little 4 inch by 4 inch samples. You actually have your stuff with you, and you get to see it and touch it and be part of it. And I think if the business model can work for you, if, the logistics work, if you're willing to add to your team or add to your space, it's really cool. It's a neat feeling. And it's something, I joke that like my kids know what I do for work. They come to job sites occasionally. They have to sit in the car as, we're running to grab samples. The warehouse is their favorite thing. Like, they love the packing materials. They love the dollies and the carts and seeing the boxes. And that is what I think they're going to remember the most, not just
Mm.
mom makes cool houses. Like, is the warehouse. Like my mom literally has 8 million boxes and it's, it is what it is. But you're trading the stress of not having control with the stress of having control.
Mm. Yeah.
And you just have to kind of decide if stuff goes wrong, it's on me, with my own warehouse versus I have somebody else to blame. And I would much rather take the blame,
Right.
face the client like, hey, we screwed up or we missed this, than have to be like, hey, this company that we're paying a lot of money to, messed up and they're not getting back to me. And now, you know, X, Y, and Z has to happen.
Yeah. 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 No, I hear you. There's, there's something to that, right? Like, when you own a process and you're responsible for the process, it's the same thing we tell our clients. We don't tell ourselves we're not going to have mistakes in the process. But I know me, I don't love to make a mistake, but if it's my mistake, the first thing I'm thinking about is how do I not make it the next time?
Yeah.
It's something I can change. Whereas if it's consistently a mistake on the part of someone else's business, whether it's a receivership or a wallpaper guy or whatever it is, you're just like, man alive, fix your stuff, dude. Fix your stuff. Like, right? It's frustrating. You really have no ability to make it better the next time. Every time is a wish, a hope, right?
Yeah.
So, and before I let you go, I have to just say thank you to you. You came to LuAnn Live in
Yes.
October of 2023, November of 2023. And I appreciate that you did that, Nicole. And, you were telling me off air that you also made some good friends and you had a chance to reunite. And tell me a little bit about that, because I'm always trying to describe that, yes, you're going to learn something, but it's also about being with your peers. You tell it from your words.
The first few years being an independent designer was very isolating. I've told others, like, I'd pick up the phone and I'd call, local designers or whatever, and you kind of get shut out. As soon as I started to build kind of that design tribe, and a lot of it's online to begin with, you start,
Yeah.
sending DMs, you're complimenting their Instagram pictures, you're showing up when they have, something big going on, you share their stories. But going to something like LuAnn Live and seeing the people in real life and getting, to hug and shake and dance with them, have a drink is really special. So I had told you I saw my friend Jamie there, Antonio there, but as we were joking, John, who I know is going to listen to this and give me a hard time if I don't, say how much I adore him,
John
but him and
McClane.
I
Yep.
connected there, and meeting somebody with, kind of the energy level. And for me, a lot of the designers I'm friends with are either similar in career or newer, where I'm the one they're reaching out to with the questions. So to have someone now kind of that I can reach out to with the SOS is really cool. But you have to have a meal with them. You have to sit next to them. You have to
Yes.
be awkward. I joked, poor Brad at LuAnn Live. I feel like I stalked
Brad
him, but
Levitt.
I had so many questions and I was just so like feeding off his energy, but also like, Brad, like, I want to learn from you. I want to know all the things. I follow you on Instagram. I've watched, I listen to your podcast, but you're doing kind of what I think I want to do down the line. Like, get me there. And you
Yeah.
can't just do that on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, you have to literally chase somebody through the hotel to do that.
Yeah. And you know what? It was fun. Like, I love that you were able to connect with John McClane and Brad Levitt, who are ahead of you, right, in their career journeys. And both, others too, but you mentioned these two. It seemed like every time we were on a break or whatever, and I would turn around, scan the room, I was like, oh my God, they always had like groups of people around them, almost like, and question and question and question and question. And I have to say, I said to each of them individually, to watch them be so kind and so generous with their information was it is the essence of my events, whether it's
Yes.
LuAnn Live or Power Talk Friday. It's like, my experts, when they're invited to speak or to participate, it's like I say, you got to be here the whole time. Like I know what it's like to go to an event and you see the person that you've looked up to on the stage and you're wowed by them and you love what they said, but you want that connection. You want to make a friend. You want to take it to the next level. And if they just do their thing and walk in and walk out. And so I'm always like, yes, but here's the criteria. And, to everyone's credit, everybody always says, okay, I get it. I will. You know what I mean? I have to say, I was surprised that Brad did. Super huge business. And he was like, all right, Lou, Saturday night to Wednesday. Okay, let's do this. So, but good souls. I mean, we have got a lot of really genuinely kind, smart, giving people in this community that we've all created together. And it's really exciting and fun. I mean, and Meredith too, I guess, right now.
We're done. Turn it off.
You know what? High five to you, Mara. That's all I can say. I love you, lady. Oh my goodness. Well, Nicole, this has been tons of fun. I appreciate your walking us through this possibility and revenue stream, or even just, a service ladder that we can offer to our clients. It's been fun getting to know you again and seeing you again. Thanks.
No, it was great. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, how funny. Hello, Meredith. Hi. You really have connected me with so many wonderful people. I do appreciate you, Meredith. And I love that Nicole was at LuAnn Live last year. Building your business, expanding your business acumen, and building your circle of peers and mentors. These are so important to your success. And they are only possible when you get out of your box. Or if you do like Meredith does, share her friends and her resources with her colleagues and peers. And so I just wonder, what are you doing to build your business and expand your business acumen and build your circle of mentors and peers, right? Well, I have an opportunity for you to do exactly this. Join me and my experts in Las Vegas just a few weeks from now, if you're listening in real time, on August 2nd, 2024. I have to tell you, it's hard to describe how impactful a Power Talk Friday event is. Imagine being in a room from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., you, me, 3 other experts, and a very small group of your peers. We have group morning discussion all morning on systems, finance, marketing, all the things, and then all afternoon we are in small round tables, 2 to 3 people and 1 expert, and you ask specific questions about your specific challenges. Okay? Add in 3 hot meals, a little laughter, and a little cocktails, and that's a Power Talk Friday day. It's really incredible. Here is what one New York designer, Bela, said about her recent experience at Power Talk Friday, New Jersey. My favorite part of the day was the round tables with the experts. The small group setting allowed for even more personalized interaction and detailed feedback from the experts than the morning even provided. It was incredibly valuable to hear different perspectives and gain specific advice tailored to my individual needs and goals. The atmosphere was supportive and collaborative, and the roundtables was an enriching and memorable experience. So join me. Take the step. Invest in your growth and your success. Go to powertalkfriday.com to learn more and register. All right. Let's get to my takeaways from Nicole. First, her journey is such a terrific example of what it means to be a trailblazer, right? I love her innovative spirit and her willingness to think outside the box. Just because something hasn't been done before or isn't normal doesn't mean it can't be done. Nicole saw an opportunity to improve her business and provide a better experience for her clients. And here is the kicker. She took action, right? Yeah, you, Nicole. But you know what really impressed me about this? It's how Nicole approached this idea with a business mindset. She didn't dive in without a plan. She took the time to run the numbers, analyze the costs, and understand if and how an in-house receiving warehouse could benefit her and her clients, both financially and in terms of the overall experience. This is the crucial lesson. Being innovative doesn't mean abandoning sound business practices. Okay. It's funny because I had a chairman of the board, I might have mentioned it in the episode, that also considered doing this. But when she ran her numbers, it didn't make sense for her. So this isn't like, hey, everybody go get a warehouse. It's like you must run the numbers. It's going to depend on your area, what kind of space you could get, what the rates are, not only for the rent, but also for the maintenance and the upkeep, and what would the warehouse manager get, all the things. So I'm all about thinking out of the box, just making sure that it makes sense. And it reminds me of the show with Melissa LeClaire, episode 620, about figuring it out as you go. You do this, okay? We'll link that episode in the show notes. The path to success and growth is you have an idea, you research it, you act on it if it's going to be something you should do. You learn from the actions you take. Sometimes you win and therefore you grow, and sometimes you fail and therefore you grow. But once you've got it figured out, then you repeat, okay? Simple but not easy. It takes work. It takes courage to do something big like this. It takes a belief in yourself, and it takes resilience. So if you think you've got these things, I bet you do. You just need a little help with a little plan. I'm sure of that. So now let's take a look at Nicole's receiving house, how it actually works and how it benefits her business. By having an in-house warehouse, Nicole has greater control over the entire receiving process, which means she can ensure that items arrive on time, that they are in perfect condition before they are, too late to do anything about it, and they are stored safely until installation day. This not only reduces stress and frustration for her and her team, but as we've said a couple of times, it provides a better experience for her clients who can trust that their items are in good hands. And her processes, they're spot on. And that's what I love to hear. And how about Meredith stickers? Are you going to get those printed for your projects now, right? If you haven't heard Meredith Huck's show, it's in the show notes as well. And it's definitely worth listening to, especially if you too need to put some process and system into place. Now, where does all this get Nicole? Having a receiving warehouse allows her to take on larger projects and offer additional services to her clients, such as one-off custom orders and custom installation. It also sets her apart from the others in her area, and it also opens up a new revenue stream, possibly with opportunities for additional growth. I also have to say, I love the sense of pride and accomplishment that I can hear in Nicole's voice. Recognizing your wins is so important. Seeing all those boxes and pallets stacked up, knowing that each one represents a carefully curated item that will soon become part of someone's beautiful home, well, for Nicole, it's a tangible reminder of her hard work and the dedication that she and her team put into every project. And I love that she takes a moment to feel it and to see it. Now, is it all sunshine and roses all the time? I'm guessing not. No business is. But, Nicole prepares for that too, setting client expectations, just like we heard recently from Sandra Funk. And we'll link that episode with Sandra in the show notes too, if you need a conversation about setting up proper expectations. Because there are going to be bumps in the road, every single one. But when you have a roadmap and you share what's next, it makes it easier for your clients. Take a page from Nicole's book. Don't be afraid to think outside the box and try something new. How about just start with dreaming what it might be? Whether it's opening a receiving warehouse, offering a new service, or simply approaching a problem that you're experiencing from a different angle. Being innovative is what will set you apart and what will help you succeed. Do you have an idea in you? Explore it. Prove the concept with research and then take action on it. And, not to beat the Power Talk Friday horse again, but that is the room for vetting an idea, for asking, how do I do a thing? Just saying. All right. Either way, you don't have to go it alone. Surround yourself with a supportive network of peers and mentors. Join IDS, Interior Design Society. Join ASID. Join and go where your peers are. Get the encouragement, that fresh perspective when you need it most, okay? Thank you, Nicole, for sharing your story and your business model with us. These kinds of things just make my day. And thank you for listening, for tuning in to yet another episode of A Well-Designed Business, 1001st episode. I hope you were there following all along, listening in real time. And I also hope that you will join me this week on July 17th. 2024. I will be on Instagram Live at 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time to give away 2 prizes to 2 lucky people on my email list. That's right. We're going to be doing a robo raffle in honor of 1,000 episodes, and we are giving away $1,000 to any Power Talk Friday event in 2024 and $1,000 toward any LU University class in 2025. If you were on my email list, then you are in the raffle, okay? If you want to be on my email list, go to LuAnnNigara.com/email. It's not too late to sign up. Thank you so much for joining me, for being here for 8.5 years and 1,001 episodes. Really, thank you. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to LuAnnNigara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to WindowWorksNJ.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.